In this video, I examine a 12-tone passage in Benjamin Britten's iconic War Requiem. Hailed as the greatest British composer since Henry Purcell, Benjamin Britten was strongly steeped in the tonal tradition. However, he began experimenting with serialism from the 1950s. Serialism is typically not employed by Britten as a totalizing technique, but rather was used locally and formed part of a larger patchwork of techniques. It is typically used as a linear collection of 12 pitch classes or triads without transformation. Britten's serialism is especially noted in The Turn of the Screw and Cantata Academica. Philip Ruprecht contextualizes Britten's adoption of serial techniques as a realignment with recent compositional trends to reposition himself away from being viewed as simply a conservative tonal composer. Premiered in 1962, the War Requiem is one of Britten's best-loved and most famous works. It was written to commemorate the horrors of the Second World War, nicely aligning with Britain's pacifism and anti-war activism. The work is a large-scale mass for vocal soloists, choir, and a large orchestra. The text is the standard Latin Requiem Mass interspersed with poems by Wilfred Owen, a poet who died in the trenches of the First World War. Note that throughout the work, Britten employs the C F-sharp tritone as a recurring leitmotif that signifies war. The most overt use of serialism in the War Requiem is at the entrance of the boys' chorus, Te decet hymnus, near the opening. Let's listen. This passage contains two types of 12-tone collections. First, the boys' chorus presents a 13-note melody containing 11 pitch classes, followed by the inversion of that melody. I call this 13-note succession a linear row. The row is focused on interval class 5, the perfect fourth, containing 6 linear interval class 5s. Second, these two phrases are accompanied by what I call a triadic row in the organ that features triads built on each of the 12 tones. The sketch evidence demonstrates how Britten was consciously aware of the 12-tone structure, noting his 12-tone checklists that are encircled on the side of the score that align with the 12 triads. This suggests that the triads came first, followed by the melody. Now we turn to look briefly at the drafting process. On the slide is the same sketch as before, but transcribed. We can see in example A that the triads originally began in C major and ended on F minor, which was changed to F major and C minor, before the final version of F major and C major. These changes allow for smoother voice leading and more consonance with the melody. We can also see in example A that Britten had originally 6 major triads in the first phrase, and in the second phrase 5 minor triads with 1 major triad. In example B, we see 6 minor triads in the second phrase, implying that Britten originally envisaged a shift from major in the first phrase to minor in the second phrase. However, by the final version, this was less strict to align better with the melody. The slide shows the properties of the final version of the triadic row, illustrating the aforementioned shifting from major to minor triads across the two phrases. The first 6 chords move from F major to F sharp major, while chords 7 to 12 move from B minor to C major. Thus, the points of arrival on F sharp major and C major string out the F sharp C war motif at a deeper level. Next, we see how the triadic row generates the linear row. There are 2 to 3 notes in the melody above each triad, with 1 to 2 notes forming common notes with it. In this sense, the triads generate the linear rows. Importantly, the perfect fourths in the melody often move between the chordal root and the chordal fifth, shown by the brackets. The melody comprises 2 linear rows, P0 and I6. Each linear row has 13 notes and 11 pitch classes, with pitch classes G and B being omitted, the tonal resolution of C F sharp. The row likely has only 11 pitch classes because of G sharp in place of G natural in measure 4. This allows for another melodic perfect fourth, reinforcing the prominence of this interval. To conclude, we look at how the triadic and linear rows are centered around the tritonal war motif of C F sharp. P0 highlights C F sharp and I6, the reverse, with the triads accompanying this. The resultant I6 relationship between the rows shows the war motif at an even deeper level. This suggests that Britten was employing serialism to compose out the war motif, and this is supported by how the rows gradually fade away by the end of the movement, with only C and F sharp remaining.